All right, cool.
All right, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you grab your seats again. Another International Home and Housewares 2018. Welcome back. And to start it off right, we have one of our favorites returning to the KitchenAid Cooking Theater. You might know him as the head baker at Public and Quality Bread. He also oversees the bread program for the One-Off Hospitality Group with great restaurants right here in Chicago. Blackbird, Public and Quality Meats, and Nico Asterio, just to name a few. He's a James Baird nominee 2 years in a row, and he also contributed to the award-winning cookbook. Cheers to Publican. Please welcome to the KitchenAid Cooking Theater, Greg Wade.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. How are you doing today? Great. Thank you so much for taking the time to come out and see me cook some stuff. As you said, I am Greg Wade. I am the head baker for Public and Quality Bread. We are the wholesale bakery attached with One-Off Hospitality. We do about 10,000 pounds of dough a week. Yeah, it's kind of a lot, right? So that serves about 70 restaurants here in Chicago, everywhere from Shaw's Crab House to Lula Cafe, all of the one-off places except for Big Star. They do tacos, they don't use bread. All that sort of thing. So pretty cool. You know, you can find a whole list of where you can find our bread on our website, publicandqualitybread.com. We focus on naturally fermenting bread, so all of our bread's made with sourdough starter. We do that because first and foremost, it's delicious, right? I mean, the more the more fermentation you have, the yeast and the bacteria working together, you get a lot of those good organic acids that make up the good aromas and flavors of bread. And we also feature local farms whole grains, more specifically Spence Farms. We are partnered with Marty and Will Travis, are the farmers there. It's about 2 hours south of Chicago. And they grow us all sorts of things from wheat to rye to oats, barley, that sort of thing. It's all biodynamic, their way that they farm, so also really good for the environment and the soil. And what's actually really cool about the way that they farm is that they're trying to make the healthiest plants, right? And then the healthy plants have a healthy immune system, so they don't need all these chemicals to grow. But something that you might not have known is that once a plant is as healthy as it can possibly be, and it does not have to put any more energy into fighting off pests and diseases, then it puts all of its extra energy into making something called bioflavonoids. And bioflavonoids actually make up the good, what actually makes something taste like something. You know, so if you ever had a really carroty carrot, it was grown really well, and it has all these extra bioflavonoids. So it has like all this extra flavor in it because of the way that it was grown. So pretty cool, right? That, you know, not only do you not have to add chemicals to your food, then all of a sudden it's actually going to taste better because of the way that they farm, and which applies to wheat too. You know, one of the things that we do there is we try to select breeds and varieties of wheat and rye, most specifically for flavor, and then also what works well on the farm. So it's a dynamic process. It's not just, you know, his growing wheat, I'm buying it. We're talking to each other about the types of things that we want to do together, rather than it just being a purveyor and you know, an end user, you know. So with that being said, I'm actually going to make a fermented rice and coconut pancake today. Not particularly American. It's actually from South India. These are called appam. South India and like Sri Lanka is the region that makes these. But what I think is kind of interesting is that bread has this really kind of cool way of being, you know, it's just very ubiquitous in every culture, right? It was kind of the foundation of us, as wheat was domesticated, so were we, right? As soon as we found out how to domesticate these wild grasses, then all of a sudden we didn't have to go be nomads and go find our food. We were able to actually cultivate it. So it's kind of synchronous, our developments and wheat's development. So you can kind of look at as these staple grains as indicators of a culture. So you've got different grains that obviously grow in different regions. In you know, Asia, Southeast Asia sort of things, it's rice. So this would be a staple crop, and this is eaten for breakfast and it's eaten for dinner. And the way that we actually go about making these is you soak some rice overnight just in water. This is about 1.5 cups of rice, and then you just cover it with water, like as much as you can in your container. And then this is actually obviously way more than 1.5 cups now, but it absorbed a bunch of liquid. Separate from that, I've got some rice that we cooked, and I don't know about you guys, but I have a huge problem with making an appropriate amount of rice when I make rice. So good use for leftover rice, okay? And then also I've got shredded coconut, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, and some yeast, okay? So this is actually really easy to put together. I should have another daily of water somewhere here. Oh, perfect, thank you. So water goes in the blender, and then also your soaked rice, your cooked rice, shredded coconut, sugar, yeast, and then super easy, you just turn it on. Or you don't. You have to hold it? No? That's a timer? No? Ah, okay. I got you. Have a bowl or something? Thank you. So you want this really, really fine. The finer that you get this, the more like kind of silky and smooth and lacy your pancake is going to be, which is pretty cool. Now, from here, you know, you can see that it's, well, as soon as I get that bowl, you'll see. Yes? I use medium grain. I think long grain would also work, given that that's kind of the sort of grains that grow in that region. I don't think I would particularly use a short grain, but for this I just use a regular medium grain rice. Yeah, good question though. All right, so this you just blend it until it's smooth, and you can see it pours pretty freely, and that's kind of what you're looking for. It should be. You know, so this is the one that I actually made this morning. So this actually needs to sit for 3 or 4 hours, and then you'll see that it gets really bubbly and frothy, and that's what you're looking for. And that's going to help make the really like lacy sides on these pancakes. Okay. So what you're going to do, I actually brought a couple pans out because, you know, might as well make more than one of these things. You want to preheat a pan, and you do want it to be nonstick. And we'll kind of show you how this works. Now, the kind of cool thing that you want is more of like kind of a tall-sided pan, because the way that we're going to do this, we're going to pour the batter in the center and then kind of swirl it, and then it'll stick to the sides of the pan, and when we release it from the pan, then it's going to be this bowl-shaped pancake, which is like a really pretty cool aesthetic. Now, traditionally, these are just served with, you know, fish stews or curries or like a baked egg sort of thing, and it's just served as a side thing. So you would take this and then you would scoop up your stew with it. What I'm actually going to do is more create a plated dish with it because it looks pretty and it's fun, and why not? You're here, so I might as well show you something. And this is actually something I was working on for Pacific Standard Time. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that name yet. It's a new restaurant that's going to be opening in April. It's Chef Erling Wubauer. It's a friend of mine. He used to be the chef over at Nico, and he's been with the Wonoff family for I think something like 15 years. Really likes abuse, that guy. But it's going to be California hearth cuisine, is what he's calling it. So very seasonal. Lots of veggies, and he's got these really cool ovens that he built for him. One being a pizza oven, and we did spend about 3 months developing a pizza recipe together, so look forward to that. I'm really excited for everyone to try it. But this other oven that he's got, he built, it's got a trough down the center, and then it's got these two shelves, and it's all stone. And you build a fire down the center of this thing in the trough, and you can have a grill grate over it. And then you've got also these two sides that you can fire roast things as you're grilling. So it's really kind of a cool concept. I'm really interested to see what he does out of there. Really talented guy. So again, opening in April. It's right on LaSalle. It's right across from the old Rock and Roll McDonald's. So what we're gonna do here, now that my pans are hot, I'm gonna take a ladle of my batter, go right into the center, and you can see that it's already bubbling and stuff. That's cool. And then I'm just gonna swirl it like this. And I'll swirl it a couple times to kind of get a nice coat on that outside. And then try to flatten it out a little bit. Now, I'm gonna crack an egg right in the center. Season the egg. Always season your eggs. Otherwise they're gross and poison. And I'm gonna put a plate over it so that'll trap the steam, okay? Let's do this again. So this is kind of why you want your batter to be kind of fluid like this, is because you do want to be able to swirl it. And if you use literally any oil at all in this pan, it is going to, it's just not gonna come out right. Let me just do a little bit more in there. Just to give us a nice bowl shape. And crack an egg, season it, and then a plate right over. Let's see if I can go for 3. Now this one might have actually been a little bit too hot. You see how it's not really sticking? You want it hot enough that it'll start cooking right when you hit the pan with it, but not so hot that it just releases. All right. Oops, forgot to season it. I almost fed you guys poison. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Now I'm just gonna wait for that bottom to really get kind of caramelized. Now, separate from this, I'm gonna start my, the rest of my assembly for the dish. And I'm kind of going in that same sort of area with flavor profiles. So we're gonna use daikon radish, some avocado, some basil, mint, and cilantro, all peeled. So, just gonna grate the daikon. Something like that. Now I've also got some fermented carrots, and I fermented them with some ajuan seed. Has anybody heard of that spice before? Kind of looks like anise. It's a really small seed. But it is got the same essential oils as thyme. So it's just a very intense thyme flavor. Yep, and this one my yolk broke, so we'll pretend that one didn't even happen. So I've got my grated daikon. To actually ferment the carrots, what I do is, normally I'll peel them, but for the sake of it being just a show up here, you grate your carrot like this. And now as you go along, you add a little bit of salt. And then you can grate your next carrot. Oop. And then you add a little bit of salt. If you actually want to do this kind of a more scientific way, rather than just adding salt as you go along, usually 2% salt by weight of the vegetable. So if you have 100 grams of your vegetable, then you need 2 grams of salt. Okay, so it's you just multiply it. I know usually you don't use math in the kitchen, but I do. I'm a baker. Okay, and then salt it again, and then you'll kind of just toss it. And then I use a container that you've got another one that fits right into it, and then you just press it down, and you see how I've got that liquid already coming out and covering the veggie. So that's creating its own brine. So that's pretty cool. So then you just leave it covered like this, and you just leave it covered like this for about 2 weeks, and then that'll ferment naturally, and you get just a much more. You'll get some sweetness, and you'll also get some tang from the lactic acid bacteria that's working on these veggies. So pretty cool. This works for most things, but works especially well for things that have a little bit of liquid. You also want, for this method at least, you do want to like shred up your pieces like this. You can't just put a whole carrot in a bowl and then put some salt on it. It's not going to work. Okay, so you do need to actually like let the salt hang out with it. So next, on the counter, yeah, two weeks at room temp. If it's really hot, like it should be not terribly hot in your kitchen, hopefully, or something like a root cellar works well. And then if you don't like a super funky fermented flavor, then just have it be start tasting it after a week instead of 2 weeks. You make the food that you like, right? So to finish this assembly, what I'm going to do is dice up some avocado. Okay. You got a spoon here, maybe? No, it's okay. We'll just pop it out. And the same thing here. Try to be a little bit quicker on it. The batter that you make here, you can also make the night before and just add a little bit less yeast and let it sit out on the counter. And all this other stuff, except for the avocado, because it'll turn brown, you can have prepped and ready. So I don't know about you guys, I like eating breakfast, but I hate getting up early to make it, especially if I've got guests. So I like to be able to prep things before they're actually, or like before the night before, so I'm just ready for it. Let's turn that off. All right, so I think we're ready for assembly, right? Why not? To do that, I'm gonna get my plate out. And now I'm going to help release this from the sides of the pan with a spatula. Okay. So what I like about these things, again, if you have like a really tall-sided pot, you can actually get a really tall-sided bowl-shaped appam. So it's just, it just ends up being really pretty because you got some automatic height off of the thing. Now to finish this, what I like to do is, try to get the egg in the center of the thing. I kind of messed up there. But place some avocado kind of around. And a little bit of salt on the avocado, because they're friends. And then I like to do a little bit of chili oil, because spicy things are delicious. I'm not sure if you can see the chili pepper tattoo on my hand from that angle, but I do love spicy stuff. Next, some of these fermented and shredded carrots, or shredded and then fermented rather. Got to do your order of operations. I like to do things around the yolk, just because it's a little bit prettier. You got kind of like that center stage look to it, and then you can definitely see that there's the egg yolk there. And then once the guest is, get a little plate wipe. Once the guest sees it, they're able to kind of crack into it. It's got that really gooey yolk that pops out, which is, for me, delicious. To my daikon, I'm going to do a little bit of mirin, that's seasoned rice wine vinegar. And then same thing, I'm just going to kind of do a little circle. If you wanted to also do a little bit of sesame oil on here, that'd be also appropriate, because sesame oil is delicious and definitely goes in this flavor profile. And then some toasted pepitas for some crunch. And then lastly, a bunch of herbs. Again, this is cilantro and mint and basil. I actually like savory mint. I'm not sure how you guys all feel about it, but something that kind of has come across for me for a long time is this kind of idea of savory mint. Not just, I'm a huge fan of mint chocolate chip ice cream. You can ask my girlfriend. We eat like literally a ton of it. But savory mint is also pretty fun. How do you get this thing off? Do you not? How do you do this?
Sure.
Thank you. You gotta have a friend.
Put it on your back. Let me grab it.
It's okay. I'll figure it out. So, I guess we'll go back on with this thing. You got one? Okay. Oh, even better.
Great.
That'll be great. All right, and then just for some fun, a little bit of lime zest over the top of it. All right, and then that is our dish. You guys got any questions? Yeah.
Oh, hold on.
Sorry,
Did you have heat under your pan that whole time, or when you
Uh,
put the plate on it?
Yeah, so question is if I had heat underneath the pan the whole time. Yes, I did. Once I saw that it's starting to get really brown on the edges and also brown on the bottom, then I turned the heat off while I kind of prepared the rest of this. I would just take it straight out of the pan, but I kind of wanted to do some stuff over here, so I just bought myself some time by turning it off. Yeah. Yeah?
Get my steps in today.
Sorry, I came a little late. Could you tell me the ingredients of the batter, please?
Yeah, so it's soaked rice. I used a medium grain, or medium length grain, and then so we soaked that overnight. I think it was about a cup and a half of cooked soaked rice, and then enough water to cover it completely. And then it's about a third of a cup of cooked rice, then about 4 cups of water, 1 cup of shredded coconut. I think it's about a teaspoon of dry yeast, 2 teaspoons of sugar, and a good pinch of salt. And you just blend it all right up, and then You'd let it ferment for about 3 or 4 hours at room temperature. But this is the consistency that you're looking for. So you want it to be pourable, like this, and you should see that it gets really nice and bubbly and frothy once it's like up and risen, you know. Again, I did say that you can do this the night before. So maybe if you were to do like half a teaspoon of dry yeast, and then you could just let it sit out on the counter overnight, that'd be fine too. Yeah, so you may need to adjust your water, but you want it to be kind of this like pourable batter consistency.
Got a question back here?
Yeah.
So is the yeast for flavor versus leavening?
No, the yeast is for leavening. So this kind of like lacy bit that you see around the sides there, where it's like really open and just looks like lace, that's because it's got the yeast in there. So it does actually, like, you will get flavor, and for me, fermenting things is not only fun but tasty. So you do get more depth of flavor by fermenting these things, and also a little bit more. Some of those complex sugars get fermented out into simple sugars, which is healthier for you. But yeah, that's it's an aesthetic, and then also for flavor. Any other questions? All right, well, I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Greg.
much, guys.
Round of applause for Greg Wade. Thank you very much, Seymour Greg. PublicanQualityBread.com, and follow him on Instagram. We got Greg Wade Bakes. Folks, keep your seats. We're going to have a little special treat for you. President and CEO of Weight Watchers International, Minnie Grossman's going to be up here to introduce Chef Eric Greenspan. So don't leave your seats. Now, we have a couple giveaways that might happen when you least expect it. Now, it's going to be a lot of audience participation, so you're going to have to work a little bit. First thing you're going to have to do is follow Wellness Mats on Instagram. So if you want to go and do that now, that might help you in our later giveaways. So Wellness Mats, and then we're going to do a couple different things this weekend long. But today, make sure you're keeping active. That's the only hint I can give you. Folks, stick around, get those seats. KitchenAid Cooking Theater. We got a little bit of time before we have Chef Eric Greenspan and Mindy Grossman from Weight Watchers International.